So wonderful. Today is August 1st, and I'm going to have a kind of quick lecture or workshop about auditory perception. As an occupational therapist, sometimes I feel that this scope of practice is not well recognized or worked among the pediatric field specifically, and sometimes I feel that we might misinterpret um, the real implications and consequences of lack of accurate auditory perception with some other thing like kind of behavioral challenges or lack of language comprehension or even intelligence issue or any other similar thing that could be the implication. But sometimes we mistaken them. And then once some knowledgeable occupational therapist or skilled one in the field of auditory perception started work on auditory perception in specific, then we will see kind of big, immense progress in that child. And then we see, wow, so the child keeps improving, and then we'll get rid of lots of those negative attributions that the non-knowledgeable therapist, caregiver, or teachers have been labeled. So as we move forward with auditory perception, by this slide about a general thing about today, we are not going to mostly refer anything about the anatomy of ear. We all kind of know that ear in general, the ear system is responsible in two different sensory systems. One of them is hearing and listening and being able to hear the voices or the frequencies. And the other function of ear is balance, equilibrium reaction, and the vestibular system in which it gives lots of sensory inputs to the brain to help the brain understand about the position of head in space. And it plays a very, very vital role in maintaining balance and equilibrium. And it helps the people have upright posture. So it's very, very important as well. But right now, all we are doing are about kind of running a kind of workshop that is feasible and doable activities with fun activities that parents or caregivers can do either in school setting or home setting or clinical setting. So we move forward about that. But just before moving forward, I want you to spend a couple of minutes on the nursery rhyme you were hearing when you were cuddled and hugged by your mom, or the time that the mom was able to make you relaxed by the sound. So it is a very, very important thing to know that one of the first senses that infant or even the fetus, even before being born, one of the first senses that the human being start interacting with the outside environment is sound and hearing and the vibration. And from the very, very earlier stage of life, human being, like every other organism, can appraise safe environment versus rough and tough and dangerous environment by the sound. For example, if a person is stressed and a caregiver or a mom knows how to talk to that person so that the child gets calmer. Whereas another mom who is not aware about the impact of her voice on the mental health of the child and keeps vocally and verbally threatening the child, like, oh, 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 as a kind of alert to danger, which is very, very close. Did you see that? All of you have woken up right now. So it's the same thing that we have some appraisal about what we hear. For example, if a child is playing peacefully in a room and I make a sound like, then the child feels that a dragon or dinosaur is approaching him. So uh, it might awaken him up, but um, it's not a kind of safe interaction with a child normally or regularly. So we move forward and we are just starting the lecture with why auditory perception is important. So it's important because it plays a very important role in language development. For example, a child learning new words, accurate articulation are kind of related to auditory perception, and it helps language development. Or the behavior that most of the time when a child is not able to follow the verbal instruction or commands, so it's not, it's kind of surprise that the child is having manifesting some behavioral challenges. Or when it comes to the term of social interaction, we see that many of the children with lack of auditory perception cannot follow the game's instruction and they feel dizzy or they cannot be the leader and they just follow through their vision and visually they follow other kids and they are not connected to the verbal environment. So it's a very, very important term called verbal environment. Yeah. Academic achievement, like a very, very important phase of learning reading a skill or writing a skill is phonological awareness. That in academic achievement, we know that how we can correspond a specific phoneme to a grapheme, how we can accurately hear that sound, and then how we can decode and encode it to a specific phonogram. They are very important. We don't have enough time to talk about it in specific, but right now, just wanted to mention the area of academic achievement as a kind of another important area of child life, which auditory perception play an important role in. And music or any other meaningful activity that needs auditory perception. And once you have a good auditory perception, you will become more able to enjoy those moments. Yeah. So we move forward, and the other terms that I request you to search later. Okay, I'm not talking about them right now, but just maybe a very brief introduction. Auditory attention, we all know what it is. Paying attention through the vocal or verbal stimulus. Auditory vigilance means that you be alert and being able to pick a specific sound out of the spoken language. Or auditory processing, which is about the pace of speech and if someone can process what he has heard. Auditory discrimination, that is, if a child is able to discriminate between two similar but different sounds. Auditory identification, that is about matching what we hear with what we know or imagine that in our mind exists. Auditory memory, which is all of us almost know what it is about. Auditory selective attention, which is about being able to pay a selective attention, specific attention to a specific sound, a certain word amongst the busy noise or amongst other communication or conversation. Auditory sustained attention, which is about the ability to continuously keep our attention toward a kind of auditory task. Auditory tolerance, which is about how much we are tolerance and endurance of having continuous performance and not losing our attention or patience in long-lasting or prolonged activities of auditory perception. And also auditory figure ground, which is about how well we can pick specific sound in a busy background, in a very noisy background. So there are terms that sooner or later we will face when speaking about auditory perception or auditory processing skills. And so we start the fun activities about auditory perception. We started first with number one. Number one activity is that be all ears, even in noise. That just imagine that you are going to play a game with your child, like you are turning on a radio or a sound or like a TV or a nursery rhyme. And in the meantime, you start speaking with your child, asking him very simple questions. The questions that you are sure your child knows the answers, but you are more specifically, you are trying to see if the child is able to pick your sound or your voice amongst the busy background. So it is good for auditory selective attention and auditory figure ground discrimination, which is spoken earlier. Number two activity is many of the following instruction games like Captain or Simon Say that like in our clinic, Teachable Mr. Pusapa is one of a kind person in running such activities, play, cyber say, captain, and then encouraging children to follow instructions intermittently or immediately, being able, kind of working on auditory vigilance and auditory selective attention by that. So the other games like that. Another idea is some products in the auditory attention field, like nursery rhyme, that there are some stories on a card, the pictures that resemble or associate a specific nursery rhyme. Like, for example, if the song is about patty cake, bake a man, make me a cake as fast as you can. And then the child should look around the card to see if he can find a cake or bake or a baker man among the picture. So it's an ability that the child learns how to listen better to the sounds or words hidden in the nursery rhyme. So another one is passcode game. That is a very fun one. I just have a very funny memory of my early years of my teen. I was a teenager, and like any other teenager, used to have lots of long phone conversation with nobody knows. And then we had only one phone line, so my mom and dad were almost pissed off that because every time the phone line was busy, with those glorious golden years of life. And then one of the day, my mom came to me and said that, please memorize this word, 5468. I said, okay, 5468. And then it's tomorrow, my mom said, okay, now memorize this game, this number, 777. So, okay, 777, 5468. Okay, so keep remembering this number. For after 2 or 3 days of remembering these numbers, then all of a sudden Mama said, yeah, it is your new phone line number. So then that's the phone number actually helped us stay in peace. But the very fun point is that the passcode game is like you are going to ask put a passcode on a favorite game of your child. For example, there is a bucket of train that your child loves playing train game. And then you say that, okay, you can play train game, but there is a passcode. The passcode is B25. Okay, and then once the child remembers the passcode, you open the lid of the bucket, and then the child is able to play. So the more, then once you start working on that, maybe you can make a longer code, or maybe we can put several codes on several activities or toys, and then gradually the child improve his auditory memory skills. So another thing is about, can you copy me? But not the way visually, mostly about copying exact sound or exact word spoken. So if you are going to work on auditory processing skills or auditory memory, maybe you can make a little sentence and now shorter, and then mid-sized sentence, and then longer sentence, working on MLU or mid-length of utterance, working on the number of words spoken in a sentence, like, for example, I went to school along with my mom. And then this sentence had 7 words, yeah? So gradually the child learns how to copy it exactly, and then you work on this. I went to school along with my mom. So it is different because we have put a stress on the word school. Or I went to school along with my wife, with my mom. So there are different stress on different part of the sentence that your child needs to pay attention to. And by copying them, you can make sure that he has good or adequate amount skills in auditory memory, discrimination, and selective attention. So the other thing is about walkie-talkie phone, that recently our clinic is equipped with walkie-talkie as well. So it's a very fun thing that in summer camp we keep enjoying playing walkie-talkie. Receptionist at the door said, "No, Nilufar, make V ready." Then we will be ready soon. Okay, so done. But at home, you can work on language comprehension along with your child, working on, okay, I ask you to bring a cup of water from upstairs. Okay, and then your child is supposed to follow the instruction and to see if he can convey the same message you have told him to the parent, to the other parent. The mom asked the parent, let's go there, and then child is about to send the message to dad, whatever he has heard. Also, it is a very, very helpful activity to help children have more and higher self-confidence upon phone conversation. As many of us as immigrants are dealing with such problem that the grandchild of a lovely grandfather, grandmother that are living back home. So whenever grandfather, grandmother are trying to speak with the grandchild, the child is getting rid of the phone conversation, because most of the time children don't understand why they have to listen and talk, and then they prefer visual interface or visual interaction. But since most of the time it's just a phone conversation, children do not like to follow it. So working of walkie-talkie also make them a little braver or encourage them when speaking over the phone as well. So next activity is about police officer. That's the kind of role play game that I love it. Um, it's like that you are playing a role of a person whose whose house is robbed, and then there is a kind of let's say there's a breaking, a death has come, and then a thief has come, and then um, stole a few items, but all of a sudden, in the last second, you could take a note of the license plate of the disc, and then you are calling the policeman and reporting what are stolen, what are missing, what you are not sure if they are stolen or not, that you are very worried. The time of this break-in is between 11 to 11:30 p.m. And you saw that these were two guys, tall, one short, that got into a black Toyota Corolla, and the license plate was MB4256. And then the police officer at the other end of the phone is the child that was supposed to take a note of them, and then be all vigilant about the numbers, the codes, when it happened, where it happened, what is missed, how it's missed, what color it was. So it's a very, very fun game that you can start it with very, very brief scenario in the beginning, and once the child understand about the rules and what he's supposed to do, gradually make it a kind of fun game that most of the time maybe even the person over the phone gets stressed and uh, shut the phone up and hang up the phone and then call again, or get surprised that why the police didn't pay attention to the voice you're speaking, and then say, "Oh, police, I'm getting disappointed of you. I told the license plate you forgot to take a note. Oh, I can't think that police be so forgetful," or these things. And then it's a kind of fun game that children gradually understand about the importance of auditory skills as well. It motivates them why it is important, because if they are supposed to play a very, very vital role like police officer in the community in later years of life, so they should be all ears. They should learn how to listen. So most of the time, beside auditory skill or auditory perception or auditory accuracy, we also have something like listening behavior. Okay, that listening behavior means that, for example, about 3 decades ago, when TVs didn't play such big role in the lifestyle of people, people um, had this habit of listening to radio, and the language skills, the vocabulary treasure, their listening patience, their listening tolerance. Um, Actually, the way they would be able to use more sophisticated wording, use of lots of idioms, poems inside the regular and ordinary uh, everyday conversation. You can compare that even in normal population, not necessarily about uh, special needs population. Okay, in normal population, that listening behavior is kind of uh, there is a kind of decrease in the skills, in the general attitude toward listening skills or listening behavior in general. Yeah. So number 8 is about be all ears when the word is said. So it's about saying, uh, telling a story, and you have asked your child to pick the exact word when it is said. For example, you are asking your child to be all ears whenever the word elephant is said. He should stand up and say, oh, elephant, I got it. Okay? So you are talking about the jungle, and you are telling a story of a jungle with lots of lions and rhinos that were playing along with a monkey. The monkey was very, very nosy, and every animal didn't like to interact with the monkey except the elephant, who had big ears. Oh, I said elephant. Okay, so we should standing up, saying elephant then. So having auditory vigilance at this situation help the child improve the auditory skills as well and enjoy the story to the fullest gradually, learning how to listen to the story more carefully. And some activities like sound bingo is another fun activity that you can buy this product and then enjoy it, to see what is the sound of which one and then matching it. And the other one is about following the tone when looking for a hidden object that it was very, very old and traditional game or activity that, for example, imagine that you have hidden some specific certain toy in a room, and you are telling the child that whenever I tap on the table louder, it means that you are getting closer to the target. And whenever I tap with lower volume, it means that you have gotten far from it. Or if I don't tap, it means that you are not toward that at all. Okay. So gradually, by the loudness of the tapping, the child learns where to look at, where to move toward, and gradually get to the target. So it gives a feeling of inspection or detector to the child as well. Um, the other thing is about the other game could be only follow what I say, is that, like, imagine that Tulsi and I are going to play a lion with a child, and then we ask the child only follow Tulsi's instruction. But at the same time that Tulsi is instructing that, for example, stand up, kick the ball, tap your head, rub your belly. At the same time, I'm saying different instruction. For example, I might ask a comment like kind of, Tulsi is saying rub your belly, I would say sit down. Then the child is faced with these two instructions, but is supposed to just follow one of them. Um, it resembles some situations like the time that a child at school needs to learn that he's supposed to listen to the teacher as a target, not to the classmate who is laughing beside or telling a joke beside. So it's a kind of listening behavior and selective attention as well. Yep. Number 12 activity is about continuous task of tapping on the card when set by the therapist. So it is a very, very um, um, kind of encouraging activity if it is played well. How it is being played? Uh, and this thing, the child is supposed to put all cards on the table. We can start from 4 or 5 or 6 cards and keep saying the name of any of the cards. The child is supposed to be vigilant and keep tapping when it's said, when it's mentioned. Okay. Gradually, you add up to the number of the cards in front of him. And even you can raise the loud sound of radio or some background noise in the background to see if the child can continuously follow that sound as well. After a couple of times of doing so, you are going to ask the child to change the role with you, and he is supposed to say the word, say the card, mention the card, and you are supposed to tap. But at this situation, even sometimes you can tap on the wrong card, and the child is supposed to watch and score you as well. Because, in fact, the child needs to learn when he is saying a word, he himself needs to listen to what he has said and have enough memory of what he has said earlier and matching it with, if you tap on the right card, which is said, okay, it's very, very um, uh, kind of helping activity to promote auditory tolerance, auditory sustained attention. And most of the time, children who are who manifest kind of very poor performance at classroom setting or group setting are weak at this. They start the day with lots of motivation to shine on, but after less than 30 minutes of the session, 30 minutes of the day of the school day, they feel that, oh, I'm going to give up. I cannot stay synced or connected with the verbal or linguistic environment, because I've gotten tired. I, if I'm given time, or if the activity was chunked down, or if I could have a break, I could get back with higher amount of energy for the next round of activity. But I cannot pay attention continuously. So it's not a matter of lack of attention, it's a matter of auditory tolerance. Yeah. And number 13 is about find the item by its sound. That is another thing, like kind of just putting a kind of piano in front of a child and asking the child to close eyes, and then you tap you push a specific piano key, and then you ask your child to look for that sound on the piano key. Yes, or you ask your child to close eyes, and then you make a few pots, plates, metal pot, glass, upside down, and then with a stick you tap on any of them, and you ask your child to make the same sound when he opened the eyes. So to match what he has heard and find the exact sound or frequency by try and error activity. So it's about auditory discrimination, accuracy, and let's say sometimes memory, but mostly auditory accuracy. Number 14 is about storytelling and role playing. That is a very, very meaningful activity that the child doesn't feel that it's a very therapeutic fun, but in fact, it is a very, very helpful activity for improving the relationship and intimacy between the mom and child, between dad and child. The nighttime stories that we can tell a story or tale to the child, and sometimes even in the afternoon time, maybe we can run some similar role play if we have the kind of for just like a kind of story with two main characters that you and your child are supposed to play. So you read one page of a book, and then you decide to play it, act it out. So imagination skills and also language comprehension, and the child learns how to live the story, and it helps the child to have higher level of empathy as well. And number 15, the last activity is about circle games like Duck Duck Goose and Little Popcorn that I think all of you can do a quick YouTube or search it to and then find what these games are, and then you can rest assured that your child will love it, specifically when it is being played in a kind of small group of 4 or 5 children with similar level of function. The exact thing that Mr. Pusafa Ali wonderfully operates in every week with our children at Catch a Blue. So the other fun activities, but just before we conclude this session, I'm going to leave a few important advice that are related to auditory skills and auditory attention. They are very, very important, and teachers, caregivers, practitioners need to know them. Specifically, let's just assume that all children somehow at some stage of life face with lack of adequate auditory processing skills. And what we need to do is to be aware about the impact and implications of auditory processing skills. And then we should keep these advice in our mind when working with children. So, number one is that whenever you are about to start speaking with the child, try your best to make eye contact with the child first. Whenever We are talking with our children when we are not facing at them or looking somewhere else or doing our own errands. So it's not going to help the child sustain and maintain his attention toward the spoken words. And you have not made sure if the child is demonstrating adequate level of listening behavior or not. Next thing is about give one instruction at a time. So for children with limited memory, it is very important to feel they are efficacious and can they can they can operate the told instructions. So what is the point of saying several instructions at a time so that the child forget a few of them and then feels lack of self-efficacy? So give one instruction at a time. The other thing is about speaking slowly and clearly and repeating the instructions to the child to ensure that they have understood them. Okay? So most of the time, when a child has limited ability in processing skills, when you talk or use longer sentences, and when you use a higher pace of speech, or if you use abstract words, or the words that are unknown to the child, so you yourself are making the child confused. And then, most of the time, children refer to the past experience when appraising their level of capability or performance. So if the past 10 experience of a child in verbal communication or verbal interaction with an adult has been unsuccessful one, or 8 out of 10 was unsuccessful, the child enters the next round of conversation with higher level of anxiety because the past memories or the past experience weren't successful. How the child can make sure that he will be capable on that specific one on the next round. So speaking slowly and clearly is very, very important. Next thing is about you are working on listening behavior of child. So when you are talking to the child, it is very important that you teach your child when I'm talking to you, stop fidgeting or moving, hands on your lap, look at my face, and but when the child is not moving or not moving away, try your best to make a very, very quick, short, and successful communication with him. Do not talk too much and let the child understand about the importance of appropriate behavior when someone is speaking with. So next thing is about instead of frequently talking or ordering or commanding to the child, just imagine that they is a kind of uh, what is it called? There is a kind of uh, capacity that just imagine a duck that is in a pond. When you throw one trace of bread to that duck, the duck gracefully pick it and eat it. But when you throw a trace of bread here, and before the duck gets to that trace, you throw another trace of bread other way, and other way, and other way. The duck might get confused of these many traces of bread and where to start from. Which one is first? Which one is thinking? So it's very important that imagine that your child's attention span is like a duck who is looking for the several traces of bread at the same time, and it's very confusing to the child. Give time to process the information before saying or uttering the next command. Next thing is about some alternative and compensatory techniques so that the child feels confidence when interacting in the ordinary or daily round of life. So at school setting, for example, use of visual timetables or work system or prompt sheet that visually remind the child about the sequences of activities, give higher self-confidence to the child. And that child uh, um, do not manifest that much of behavioral challenges that were kind of related to lack of language comprehension earlier. Next thing is that, oh, it's very, very important again. Just imagine that in a couple of days, we are going to install some hand blower in our clinic's washroom. And then once we do so, the hand blower has some kind of eye or artificial eye that whenever you put your hand underneath that area, it automatically gets activated. And most of the children with low auditory threshold or the children who are called having hyperacusis, auditory hypersensitivity, okay? They suffer from loud and unexpected voice. So they might not want to go to the washroom to do the deeds just because of the fear of that hand blower that all of a sudden might get activated. So at school, in order to make sure that the child is not going to be shocked by a loud noise of the bell, you need to say that, okay, in 5 minutes, the bell is going to ring. In 2 minutes, 1 minute, let's wait for the sound of bell in the last minute. And once the child is ready to predict that loud noise is not going to make him scared of. So most of the time, the unexpectedness and unpredictability of that loud noise make them shocked or annoyed or scared. So it's important as well. Next thing is about uh, maybe we are able to filter some voice. Maybe we are able to filter some sounds in the environment. Maybe once we enter a meeting room, when a fan is working, we don't notice the sound of fan. Our auditory system is operating very well, and we are not deaf, and we are not having hearing issue, but automatically our auditory perception system is more advanced and knows how to filter unwanted sounds, how to filter background noise. But for many children or for many people, many of the background noise don't fade. They stay in the environment. And then you cannot expect a child to pay continuous attention or having good selective attention when he is placed in a very noisy situation, uh, specifically when you have ignored those noises. Yes? Next thing is that uh, for example, if you place your child in a room that your child is supposed to perform a specific attention-centered function, and you know that auditory stimulus might distract the child, it is very important and very vital or obvious to lessen those distractors. No, I think even it is that obvious that in the beginning of writing this slide, I felt that so everyone knows that. But most of the time, I feel that caregivers might ignore it because they themselves can tolerate those sounds or they themselves can continue the performance even in the presence of that auditory distraction. But when a child is struggling to get to the benchmark of auditory perception, every minor factor that distracts him or lessens his performance are important. So pay attention to the details are very, very vital. And the next thing is about earplugs or headphones that I have seen many of the clients recently utilize, and I encourage them to use it as well. It helps children have more peaceful moments of interaction, and why not? It's the last style of advice. So thank you for your patience, and I really congratulate your wonderful auditory tolerance for this workshop. Uh, so sometimes, sometimes children with inattention issue uh, might be able to pay attention to the given task when some music is on, when some noise is on. For example, for some clients with uh, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or in ADHD in short, um, sometimes we recognize that even when we provide a kind of quiet room for them, they prefer that upon doing a math, they make a sound by their mouth. So sometimes some white noise, some music that's not going to distract the child. Sometimes it helps them having higher level of attention or focus. Next thing is about the strategies that the children need to learn, like kind of memorizing the spoken item by fingers. That, for example, Amuparsa asked me to do kick the ball, jump, clap. So what is that? Kick the ball, jump, clap. So representing the finger or a kind of coding system that each finger is related to a specific instruction, that by looking at the finger, I can remember the stat item a little more easily. So the last thing is about when you feel that you have said an instruction to a child, okay? And if you feel that your child hasn't understood it well, first, ask your child to ask you to repeat. First, the child is supposed to be aware about his status. He should confess that I didn't get it. He should know, he should confess to himself, okay? He should say that, so the situation I am at is not confusion. It's that I didn't hear it, simply I didn't get it. So I can say that I didn't get it first, then I can request for a repeat. And then with a smile on your eye, with an encouraging face, not with a kind of impatient face of, again, you didn't hear it. Not this face that reduce self-confidence of a child, but with a smile on face, oh, that's okay. We repeat the instruction again. Okay, so there are the instruction or advice I found it necessary to share with you. And now if you have any question, I'm here to respond to. Thank you very much for taking time.